Drafts for each and every NFL team continue to roll on here in the Sportsocracy. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're always coming to you from the Ingles studio. Ingles Supermarkets, low prices, love the savings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like almost every team in the NFL has a new era starting here, but without Ben Roethlisberger. Steelers rolling on, and the big question for them is, do they or don't they? Their first pick in the draft comes up at number 20. Is this where they find their next franchise guy?
Well, they've talked to practically every quarterback in this process, but there's one that just seems to be prevailing over all else, and I think it's his best spot to land. So at 20, I have them taking Malik Willis. I think this is the best case scenario for him because they can be patient. Signing Mitch Trubisky allows you to bring him along slowly, but there's another part of that if you look at the additions with Miles Jack, Carl Joseph, they added a lot of pieces to fill holes. Are they great solutions? Maybe, maybe not. Miles Jack's a really talented player that just, for whatever reason, didn't fit in the Urban Meyer scheme. Had, I think, unequivocally his worst year as a pro last year, but now I see him going to Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's going to work. That's going to work. Him next to Devin Bush is going to work. Carl Joseph is going to work because that's what the Steelers do. So you don't have that. I mean, they have needs just like every team does. They don't have, holy shit, you're playing an XFL player kind of needs, and that's the reason the Steelers have been good for 20 damn years. It's also the reason that you can add a player like Malik Willis. You've got the bridge in Trubisky, and I think it's a 2-year bridge. I've said Malik Willis is a year away from being a year away because he has never made an NFL-level read in his life, and the next time he does it will be the first time he does it. And that's basically like coming into the NFL and you're having to learn a playbook that's in a different language that you don't know. So to me, he's a 2-year out starter. The ceiling is ridiculous because he's got a great arm. He's hyper athletic. And I look at this much like I looked at Ben when they took him. You are the rawest of all these prospects. You also have the highest ceiling. Pittsburgh made that work, and I think they'll make this work.
So, yes, maybe they do get their franchise quarterback here to start off the perfect Chris Farley mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, things are going great.
With Malik Willis at number 20 overall, the quarterback at Liberty. In the second round, the Steelers have pick number 52, but another team wants to move up.
This was one of the most – when I do these perfect mock drafts, it's usually because I'm looking at prospect trackers, things I've heard, players I know they're really interested in. And the problem for Pittsburgh is that here they have 84 and they have 52. Well, there's 3 players they want to come away with. So I look at the Giants. I think one of these quarterbacks is going to fall. I fully believe it's Desmond Ridder, and that's the one the Giants would want. So in this mock, which ties into theirs, they trade up to 52 with the Steelers. They get the Giants get 52. They get a 2023 third-round pick, and the Steelers get 67 and 81. Which will allow them – now they'll have 3 picks in the third round, and it'll allow them to get to 3 guys that I know definitively they're targeting.
So the first of those 3 picks in the third round comes at 67 overall, the Giants pick. Rasheed Walker, offensive tackle from Penn State.
I think it is absolutely hilarious how many people hate this guy, and I don't know why. Like, unless he's just out there rubbing his dick on people's girlfriends, I do not understand why he catches so much shit. I mean, it's a 4-year starter at Penn State. Really good, really athletic tackle. Is he ever going to be a Pro Bowler? No. But I could say that about the vast majority of offensive linemen in this draft. There's just been so much hate on this guy that that tells me he's most likely going to fall, which in this case he does because I have him rated higher than this. But I look at him coming into Pittsburgh. I liked Dan Moore coming into the draft last year, coming out of Texas A&M. I never in a million years thought he was going to come in the league and play left tackle, and last year it showed why. So in this principle, I think Rasheed Walker could come in and start right away. This year, left tackle right away. You've got a Corafor on the right side. You just signed James Daniels, which to me is one of the value signings of the offseason. You got Mason Cole on the interior, and that would allow you to slide Dan Moore to the inside, which is where he belongs. Now you look at the line, and I actually think that makes your line pretty formidable.
With the 81st overall pick, still in the third round here for the Steelers, Justyn Ross, wide receiver out of Clemson.
I know they are super high on Justyn Ross, and to be really honest with you, so am I. I think most of the bad tape from last year came from the fact that DJ Uiagalelei couldn't play dead in a Western. He's just horribly inaccurate. So the problem with that comes in with a receiver like Justyn Ross, who's not a speed burner by any stretch of the imagination. He's just a big-bodied, good-hand, physical receiver. Well, having those two things contiguously doesn't work because that kind of receiver needs a hyper-accurate quarterback that can put the ball on his body and he can use his physicality to get to it. That's what made Justyn Ross look so average. I fully believe that another team, a smart team in the NFL, is going to see that. I fully believe it's the Steelers, and I think it would be right here, beginning of the third round. There are some medical red flags with him, but he played through the entire year last year. After the spinal fusion surgery, everything seemed to be fine. He might have lost a step, but I could argue that that was a mixture of plenty of things.
But if accuracy was the issue with DJ Uiagalelei, is Mitch better?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God, yes. The problem with Mitch Trubisky is he never had the great deep ball arm. And he was putting him in Matt Nagy's offense was like putting me in a dress. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. And that's the problem that happened. But you look at, I mean, and this, I'm going to be as honest about this as I can be. The Chicago Bears are one of the most woe-begotten franchises in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the most heralded, well-run organizations in the NFL. Mitch Trubisky has talent. He at the end of the day, he was still the second pick in the draft, and there was a reason because he's hyper-athletic. And I think he can be enough of a – to me, these two pieces fit really well together. The question would then be, when Malik Willis takes over, can you ever make him accurate enough to deal with Justyn Ross? To me, that's one of those he would just be a security blanket. But you do still have Chase Claypool. You still have Deontay Johnson. You still got Pat Freiermuth. So that would give you elite weapons. I think cranks up the offense and would give Najee Harris some more room to work.
Well, with their own pick in the third round at number 84, Alontae Taylor, cornerback out of Tennessee.
Really popular in this cycle. The tape on him does not tell the story. Converted wide receiver, came to Tennessee as a wide receiver, and I'll be honest with you, I think could play wide receiver in the NFL, but was transitioned to corner. And there's been some up and down. He plays really physical. He screams Pittsburgh Steeler to me. And I look at the situation with the Steelers. They've never had great corners, at least in the decade I've been doing this. It's been a lot of Joe Hayden, who was more name than he was actual play. You brought in Levi Wallace, which I really like, which allows you to be patient here with him. And bring him along. If you bring him in as a third-round pick and expect him to be a starting outside corner immediately, you're going to be disappointed. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. However, some of the best ball skills in this draft at corner because he was a wide receiver. I think you could slide Cam Sutton in at times to play in the slot. He could play on the outside. That those zone-heavy looks would really work for him, and that would give you four corners with Sutton, Levi Wallace, and Ahkello Witherspoon. That's what I've always said about it. When you've got two twos, well, you should have three of them. Mm-hmm. And it's even better when you have four of them. And that's what I feel like Pittsburgh would have here.
In the fourth round, 138 overall, the Steelers in the Flostradamus perfect mock draft, the Chris Farley draft, could take Nick Cross, safety from Maryland.
Well, and this is a little bit of nepotism because his roommate in college was Mike Tomlin's son, Dino. And for me, I didn't really put much into that because I don't look at those. I don't usually look at those nepotism things until they brought him in. There's been a lot of connection there, and then I'm reading the tea leaves of every team in the NFL is finding a way to find that hyper-aggressive safety, just athlete, and that's what he would be. Move him all around. I think he plays nicely with Minkah Fitzpatrick. It would allow you to be very multiple. He is raw. He ran a ridiculous time at the Combine, which is why you would get him here as opposed to where I originally had him. But I'm looking at all the raw tools, and this is one of those drafts where there are a lot of players that I know exactly what they are. There are not a lot of players that I'm looking at going, if a team could unlock your potential, you could be a Pro Bowler. And I see that in Nick Cross, and I think the perfect coach to bring that out in him is Mike Tomlin.
Nope, fifth-round pick for the Steelers. That goes to Jeremy's New York Jets.
Jets, Jets.
They don't have their own pick in the 6th round either, as that one went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they do have the Kansas City Chiefs pick in the 6th round, 209 overall, Tyler Allgeier, running back from BYU.
They were all over this kid at the combine, and I like him. The comp to him is he's Austin Eckler if Austin Eckler was not a gym fiend. I don't see anything that he does tremendously well right now. He's a thick running back, 5'11", 220. He's got good burst, runs downhill. He's just kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. Imagine Jalen Samuels in a smaller body with a drastically higher football IQ, because that's exactly what he is. Played outside linebacker in high school, did a little of that at BYU. He's just absolutely a grinder. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler kind of player, and when I heard how connected they were to him at the combine, it was one of those players that you invariably fall into mock drafts where no matter what you do, they just end up winding back together. The pick has changed, the round has changed, but the fact that in every mock draft I've done, somehow I've either had him with Pittsburgh or I've considered it heavily. So to me, this would be a nice compliment to Najee Harris, keep a little of the workload off him. I like this kid. The thing about this running back class, there are no high-end running backs. So to me, I mean, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, but even then I've got third-round grades on them. If you're taking a running back in this draft in the first 2 days, you did it wrong. Unless you're desperate.
Mm-hmm. The Pittsburgh Steelers have the Jets pick in the 7th round, so they're at the top of the 7th round at 226. You said the last guy was a Pittsburgh Steeler player. This guy, to me, seems like a Pittsburgh Steeler player. James Skalski, the linebacker out of Clemson.
Played a ton of snaps in college, just physical limitations. If I could put his brain into, say, a Nick Cross's body, that'd be a fucking Hall of Famer. Problem is he's a short little stubby linebacker that ain't all that fast. But there is something to be said, especially with the way the Steelers play, to having guys like this that, yeah, there's physical limitations, but you've just got that heart of a champion, and you see that. Not great in coverage, going to be more of a first 2-down linebacker, special teams guy. I think he projects in the NFL as being just an absolute special teams ace. The guy that you feel like chews on glass and swallows nickels and bangs his head against the wall. That's what James Skalski is.
At 242 overall, the final pick of the draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chris Oladokun, quarterback out of South Dakota State.
And I'm sure somebody is looking at this going,
let me tell you why I suck.
Why would you take 2 quarterbacks in the same draft? Let me tell you why. Because Malik Willis should offer you not nary a damn thing. Nothing in year 1. If he touches the fucking field, you did it wrong. I'm not saying you're going to hold him on the practice squad or anything to that dynamic. If something happened to Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph would be who comes in.
Yes.
They had this plan with Dwayne Haskins. Unfortunately, the tragedy that happened with him, now you can't do that. So now you're going to need that third quarterback. Here's how I think this would go. If something happened to Trubisky, Mason Rudolph would come in and Chris Oladokun would be the backup because he's far more NFL ready right now. He just has nowhere near the ceiling. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to the brain. He's a very smart, high football IQ kind of quarterback. Every person that's talked to him that I know of has spoken on how he just sees football in a specific way. But then you get to the physical limitations. It's James Skalski all over again. I think there's a value to him being in the room and growing with Malik Willis. Ultimately would probably be the backup to him. But I think it would be nice to have somebody that's learning the offense with him that just understands football, understands the reads, understands the way that the game really works to bring him along. To me, this is the...
Because I'm going to bunk with you, buddy. We're going to be buddies. We're going to be pals. We're going to wrestle around.
For Malik Willis. And I know the Steelers have had interest in him. I really like this kid. He's just got drastic physical limitations. But when you're the Steelers, you can take luxury picks like that because you're really fucking good.
Right. And that would give them, 5 quarterbacks on the roster? 4.
4.
Yeah, 4.
It'd be 4. It'd be Malik Willis, Rudolph, Trubisky, and Oladokun.
Right.
And Oladokun would be stashed away on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
He would not take up one of your 46 roster spots, obviously, but having him in the quarterback room helping Malik Willis, I think there would be a merit to that. He's played in a more realistic style offense than Malik Willis has. I mean, that's the thing you've got to understand if you take him. This is when Baltimore took Lamar Jackson, it was basically having to teach him how to run an NFL offense because he's never done it. Malik Willis is that times 5 because that Liberty offense is pick and pop. I mean, none of that translates to the NFL. Currently, I don't even know that he could take a snap under center. That's how raw he is. But to me, you look at the signing of Trubisky, the drafting of Malik Willis, those two things, that makes it make sense. I don't see how the Steelers are going into this going, yeah, Mitch Trubisky's the quarterback of the future. No, you got two options. He's either a bridge to Willis 2 years down the road, and he's good, not great, and 2 years from now he's gone, Malik Willis is the starter. Or he winds up being really good, and 2 years from now he's an asset that you move and then let Malik Willis take over.
Mm-hmm. The perfect mock draft, the Chris Farley mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers is thus. And if you like the picks, if you hate the picks, please let us know in the comments.
If you're looking at me just going,
Mom, I wish you could be Santa's little helper and shut your damn cake hole.
And you have a mock draft that you'd like to see what I think of it, throw it in the comments. We'll have one more mock draft coming out the week of the 2022 NFL Draft that will be my submission into the media contest. That will be what I actually think happens with prospect trackers and who teams are interested in, what I'm hearing, all those good things. And that'll be put out player by player the entire week of the 2022 NFL Draft live from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Can't wait, and we will be covering each and every pick live here in the Sportsocracy as well. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We always come to you from the Ingles studio. Ingles Supermarkets, low prices, love the savings. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene, and we will see you next time.
Well, Lottie frickin' duh!